Hi, this is me, Tony, and this is another video for you on my YouTube channel. The title of this presentation is an inscription from across the border and the Perennity of the Phoenician Identity, or otherwise El-Amad, Ma'sub, South Lebanon, Northern Israel Phoenician inscription dating back to the year 222 BC, and the inscription is known as Kai 19. This is an image of the inscription stone. Phoenician inscription from El-Amad. Historical facts. The inscription was carved on a stone plaque. It dates to the year 222 BC, and it's now present in the Louvre Museum in Paris, France. It was purchased from the inhabitants of the village of Ma'sub, south of Ras En-Naqura in 1885. At that time, this area was part of the district of Acre under the Ottoman Empire. This would be now in northern Israel, historical Palestine. This inscription's true provenance is from El-Amad, a ruined site north of it on the Lebanese side of the border, which is currently at Ras En-Naqura. The inscription describes the dedication of a portico and a Phoenician temple to the goddess ḥTRT. Phoenician inscription of El-Amad. Historical facts continued. El-Amed or Amad or Al-Awamid or El-Awamid in Arabic, meaning the mother of columns, is a Hellenistic period archaeological site near the town of Naqura in South Lebanon, located 19 kilometers south of the city of Tyre, and was known in the inscription as the city of Hammon. It was excavated in 1861 by Ernest Renan in his Mission de Phénicie expedition. It's one of the most excavated sites in the Phoenician heartland. Numerous artifacts from this site are preserved in the National Museum of Beirut. The site contains the ruins of two temples, the temple of MLKM, the local god of the city of Hammon, mentioned in this inscription, and the Eastern Temple with the throne chapel built between 287 and 222 BC in the Ptolemaic period. And here is the Phoenician inscription written in the modified Latin alphabet, and this will be the first reading for you of this inscription. And this inscription has, as you can see here, 11 lines, and we are going to read them for you. ⟲RPT KBRT متسع شمش وتصبولية إجبنو ħᵓLM ملخي ملخ اشترت عبديو بعلي حمون لیاشترت بإشرت الحمون بشت 26 لپتولمایوس أدون ملخیم ḥDR فعل نعم بن پتولمایوس ⟲RSN:NS الونه أحييم شالوش ḥMШم شت لعم مو إيشبنو أيت كل ḥRY ḥمقدشيم بأرتس ليكونوا لم السكر والشم نعيم العلوم. Phoenician inscription using the Hebrew alphabet. And here we can see also the lines, 11 lines, and we read ⟲RPT KBRT متسع شمش وتصبولية إجبنو ḥLM ملخي ملخ اشترت عبديو بعلي حمون لیاشترت بإشرت الحمون بشت 26 لپتولمایوس أدون ملخیم ḥDR فعل نعم بن پتولمایوس ⟲RSN:NS الونه أحييم شالوش ḥMШم شت لعم مو إيشبنو أيت كل ḥRY ḥمقدشيم بأرتس ليكونوا لم السكر والشم نعيم العلوم. And this is a French translation of this inscription. Again, we can see the lines 1 to 11. Le portique vers l'Orient et ses piliers sont ceux qu'ont bâtis les puissants envoyés de MLKSTRT et ses serviteurs, les citoyens de Hamon, pour Astarté dans le sanctuaire de la divinité Hamon. En l'an 26 de Ptolémée, seigneur des rois, le grand, le bienfaiteur, fils de Ptolémée et d'Arsinoé, les divins frères et sœurs. En l'an 53e, après l'ère de Tyr, de même ils ont bâti tous les sanctuaires restants sur la terre, afin que ce soit pour eux un souvenir et un bon nom pour toujours. An English translation of this inscription. The large eastern portico and its pillars, which were built by the mighty messenger of MLKSTRT and his servants, the citizens of Hamon, for the goddess Astarte in the shrine of the god Hamon, in the 26th year of Ptolemy, lord of things, the great, the benefactor, son of Ptolemy and Arsinoe, the divine brother and sister, being the 53rd year of the people of Tyre, just as they built all the other sanctuaries which are in the land to be for them as a memorial and a good name forever. An Arabic translation of this inscription. الرواق الشرقي الكبير وأساساته بناها القوي مبعوث ملك عشترت وعبيده مواطني حمون للإلهة عشترت في مقام الإله حمون في السنة 26 لبطليموس سيد الملوك القدير المحسن ابن بطليموس وأرسنوي الشقيقين الإلهيين التي توافق السنة 53 لشعب صور، كما أنهم بنوا سائر الهياكل المقدسة المتبقية في الأرض لكي يكونوا لهم تذكارا واسما حسنا للأبد. Phoenician vocabulary from this inscription. The first word we are going to look at is the word 꿲RPT, transliteration 꿲RPT, meaning in English portico of a temple, the anteroom of the three rooms of the tripartite Levantine temples. This is the room giving access to the sanctuary, and it corresponds to the Olam of the Jerusalem temple. This word in itself is similar to the Arabic word ghurfa, which means a room in a house. KBRT, it's an adjective. KBRT, its transliteration, meaning in English, large or great, similar to the Arabic word kabir for masculine and kabira for feminine words. In Hebrew, a similar word would be gadol. Mitzah shemesh, transliteration, mitzah shemesh, meaning in English, the rising of the sun, the east. In Arabic, al-mashriq, ay jihat shuruq al-shams, from where the sun rises. Witsapoliya is a masculine name or noun. Transliteration with sapoliya, the ya at the end is a possessive suffix, is for the 꿲RPT. The 꿲RPT is a feminine noun. And it means in English, pillars. Phoenician vocabulary from this inscription. Ish bano, we know that bano is a verb. Ish bano, English translation, which was built by or built by. HᵓLM is a masculine noun. Transliteration, HᵓLM, English translation, the God, the powerful, the strong one, the renowned one, the leader, etc. Usually used for gods, but here in this inscription is used for important leaders, important political leaders. And we see it again in line 7, alone, transliteration alone is the construct form of the plural form alonim and is used for Ptolemy and Arsinoe. Even the Bible, if you take Psalm 82:6, refers to powerful leaders and rulers as gods. So we read in 82:6. Ani amarti Elohim atem وبني عليون الخم. In the Gospel of John 10:34, Jesus himself answered the Jews and said to them, "Is it not written in your law?" He was referring to this psalm itself. I said, "You are gods," when they said that he was blaspheming for calling himself the Son of God. The next word we're going to look at is the word ML:KH or malach. So ML:KH, the word here, is the construct form of malach. An English translation would be the messenger. Similar to the Hebrew word malach, literally messenger, plural malachim, which is the Hebrew word for angels, the messengers of God. In Arabic, the word is malak for singular, angel, and for angels in plural, it's malaika. Phoenician vocabulary from this inscription. The word we're going to look at is the word ML:KT or ⟲ḥTRT. Transliteration, ML:KT. English translation, it's the name of a Phoenician god. It's a combination of the god of Tyre, ⟲ and the goddess Astarte. It was the local god. It was worshipped in the city of Hammon, current-day El-Amad. W:BDY, transliteration, W:BDY, English translation, and his servants or workers. From the verb abod, transliteration abod, that is to work for or to serve someone. It doesn't mean that you're a slave of someone. It means that you work for someone or for some company or for the king or for a landlord. Baal Hammon or Baalei Hammon, English translation, the citizen of the city of Hammon. So it's in the construct form in plural. The city of Hammon is the current-day El-Amad. So we know that Baal has many meanings. Could mean the divine lord or god, the personal god, the proprietary god, the owner or possessor, the king or the sovereign, citizen of, master of a specific art or service, and in Hebrew also it means husband. In Arabic, Ard Baal means a non-irrigated land or a land that's irrigated by rain that comes from Baal Shamim, god of the sky. ⟲RSN:RT, another word we're going to look at, English translation, in the sanctuary of. Phoenician vocabulary from this inscription. El-Hammon, transliteration, El-Hammon, English translation, the god Hammon. So we know that the word El means God, and Hammon is actually the name of one of the Phoenician gods. ⟲BᵓШRT, transliteration, ⟲BᵓШRT, English translation in the year 26. And this 26 was written in the way Phoenicians used to write their numbers, and this would, God willing, be the subject of a future video to inform you about how the Phoenicians used to write. They had numbers similar to the Roman numbers. The second word, or the third word we're going to look at here, is ⟲LPTLMYS, transliteration ⟲LPTLMYS, and English translation is for Ptolemy. And the Ptolemy we're talking about here is Ptolemy III, ⟲Ergetes, Greek, Ptolemaios, ⟲Ergetes, Ptolemaios, ⟲Ergetes, Ptolemy the benefactor. And he was the third pharaoh of the Ptolemaic dynasty in Egypt. And he reigned from 246 to 222 BC. Adon Milchim, English translation, the Lord of Kings, a title initially used by the Persian kings. and was later taken by Alexander the Great and his successors, Seleucids and the Ptolemaic dynasties. In Persian, the word is Shahenshah, and so here I'm speaking in Persian, so I have nothing against Persians, was also used by the latest Pahlavi dynasty in Iran before the Khomeini Islamic Revolution in the 70s, late 70s. This title was also taken by the Christians and was given to our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. In ancient Greek, it's Basileus ton Basileon ton. And in English, it's King of Kings and Lord of Lords. Phoenician vocabulary from this inscription. We're going to look at the word ḥ'DR, transliteration ḥ'DR. English translation, so ha is the definite article in Phoenician, so the, and adir is powerful, mighty, and large. A similar word in Arabic would be qadir. Second word we're going to look at, fa'al na'am. Fa'al is the active participle of the verb fa'al. Transliteration, fa'al na'am. English translation, literally, the doer of good, the benefactor. In Greek, ergetes. Ptolemaios, ergetes. Ptolemy III, who ruled, as we said before, from 246 to 222 BC. Ben Ptolemaios ⟲RSNᵓS. Transliteration, Ben Ptolemaios ⟲RSNᵓS. English translation, son of Ptolemy II and also of Arsinoes the first. Ptolemy II, Philadelphus in Greek, Ptolemaios Philadelphus, Ptolemaios Philadelphos, Ptolemy the sibling lover. He was the pharaoh of the Ptolemaic Egypt from 284 to 246 BC. He was the son of Ptolemy I, the Macedonian Greek general of Alexander the Great, who founded the Ptolemaic kingdom after the death of Alexander and Queen Berenice I. He's originally from Macedon in northern Greece. And Arsinoe I was the daughter of Lysimachus, who chose to support Ptolemy II and sealed that decision at some point between 284 and 281 BC by marrying his daughter Arsinoe I to Ptolemy II. So Arsinoe I was the niece of Ptolemy II. Phoenician vocabulary from this inscription. Few words we're going to look at. Alone Ohayim. Transliteration, Alone Ohayim. So this is in the construct form. English translation, the gods, siblings. So, Hayim means siblings, or brothers and sisters in plural. The gods, brother and sister, or the powerful brother and sister. Alone here is used for powerful deified human beings and not only for gods. This is the second occurrence of this particular word with this meaning in this inscription. ⟲ ḥMШM. Transliteration, ⟲ḥMШM. English translation in the year 53. And here the ⟲ḥMШM is written using the Phoenician alphabet and not the numbers, symbols for numbers in Phoenicia. ⟲ transliteration, ⟲. English translation, in the year of the people of Tyre. The first era of Tyre when the city became a republic. And historians think that this happened in the year 274 BC. Another word, ⟲ KMO ǩMu'ish is a conjunction and bano is a verb. Transliteration, ǩMu'ish bano. English translation, just as they also built. Phoenician vocabulary from this inscription. Ayet is nota accusativi. Transliteration ayet. English translation, this, the, that. Kill is a pronoun. Transliteration kill. English translation all, every, each, anyone, everything, every, and any. ḥRE preposition. ḥMiqdashim, a plural noun. Transliteration ḥRE ḥMiqdashim. English translation the other sanctuaries. ḥRE transliteration is ahar. English translation is after, other, another. In Arabic, this would be al-hayakil al-ukhra. The temple in Jerusalem, or the Holy Temple in Hebrew, is Bet HaMiqdash, modern Bet HaMiqdash. Beit al-Maqdis in Arabic refers to the two religious structures that served as the central places of worship for Israelites and Jews. More Phoenician vocabulary from this inscription. The word ish is a pronoun. Transliteration ish. English translation who, which, that. Be is a locative preposition. Transliteration be. English translation in, of, or from. Aretz is a noun, a feminine noun. Transliteration aretz. English translation land, country, region, area, territory of a state, and motherland. Same in Hebrew. The land of Israel, for example, is known in Hebrew as Eretz Yisrael. Likunu is an infinitive construct. Transliteration likunu. English translation so that they may be. And the last word on this slide is lom, is a possessive pronoun. Transliteration is lom. English translation to them. Phoenician vocabulary from this inscription, and this would be the last slide of Phoenician vocabulary. The word we're going to look at is li sikr. Li is preposition. Sikr is noun, masculine noun. Transliteration li sikr. English translation for a memorial or as a memorial. Sikr, transliteration is sakor. English translation is to remember, from root sakar, similar to the Arabic zakar. In Hebrew, biskor, which means to remember, to recall, to keep in mind, to bear in mind, or to recollect. ḥMŠM, who is a conjunction. Shem is a noun, masculine, and Naim is an adjective. Transliteration ḥMŠM. English translation and a good name, or and a good reputation. L'Olam, noun, masculine. Transliteration li'olam. English translation forever, for eternity. We have discussed this word in previous presentations. This inscription and the question of borders of the Phoenician motherland, and we're talking here about the southern borders between Phoenicia and the Kingdom of Israel, or the Kingdom of Israel and Judah, or historical Palestine. And this is a personal reflection. As I mentioned in the previous presentation, my previous video presentation, the land of Canaan included modern-day Lebanon, northwestern Syria beyond the Orontes River, Israel or historical Palestine, and western Jordan, down to the Sinai Peninsula, which was the border between the land of Canaan and the land of Egypt. Classically, the southern border of Phoenicia was Mount Carmel, east of the modern-day city of Haifa in Israel. The current border between the state of Lebanon and that of Israel-Palestine dates to the end of the First World War in the last century, and was a result of the Sykes-Picot agreement between the French and the English to divide the Levant that was until 1918 under Turkish rule. If we go back in history to the time of King Eshmunazar II, who reigned between 539 and 525 BC, the borders were different. And I have made a video presentation about King Eshmunazar inscription, actually two videos, so you can review them if you wish. And I'm taking this passage from the inscription to where King Eshmunazar talks about the borders, the southern borders. And he says, وعد يتن لنو أدون ملخيم الدور ويابي أرتصوت دقون هايدريت إيش بشد شارون لمتت عتصمت إيش تعالتي ويصبونونم على جبل أرتس وكننم لتسيدونيم علوم. So what he's saying is that the King of Kings or the Lord of Kings has given him the lands of city of Dor and city of Jaffa or Jaffa and the land of the plain of Sharon because of the mighty works he did. And he annexed those areas to the borders of the land of Canaan or the land of the Phoenicia to remain for the Phoenicians, Sidonians are Phoenicians forever. So the borders at the time of King Eshmunazar II was down to Dor and Jaffa, modern-day southern suburb of Tel Aviv. So even Tel Aviv itself was part of the Phoenician homeland at the time of King Eshmunazar II. The inscription and the question of borders of the Phoenician motherland, and here we're talking about the southern borders. Even Ashkelon, more down south, that is 50 kilometers south of modern-day Tel Aviv, became a Phoenician city in the Persian era. Ashkelon was under the control of Tyre according to Pseudo-Silax, 4th century BC. With the division of Alexander's empire, Ashkelon, or Ascalon, as it was then known, was included in the Ptolemy's domain, and it became a free port and an autonomous city, like the city of Uman, from which our inscription comes from. If we even go back in time to the days of King Solomon, the Bible tells us about the cities of Galilee that were given as a reward to King Hiram of Tyre for building the Temple of Jerusalem. So we read in Chronicles 8:10 to 13. Now, at the end of the 20 years during which Solomon built these two houses, the house of the Lord and the royal palace, King Solomon gave 20 towns in the land of Galilee to Hiram, king of Tyre, who had supplied him with cedar and cypress logs and gold for his every desire. So Hiram went out from Tyre to inspect the towns that Solomon had given him, but he was not pleased with them. What are these towns you have given me, my brother? Asked Hiram, or Hiram. And he called them the land of Kabul, as they are called to this day. The inscription and the question of borders of the Phoenician motherland. And so where was this Kabul? Kabul in Hebrew, or Kabulo, or Kabulon, is a location in the Lower Galilee mentioned in the Hebrew Bible. Now, the Kabul local council in Israel is 9 to 10 miles, that is 16 kilometers east of Acre, or Acre. So it is somewhere here. And the name apparently signifies good for nothing. And we say that also in modern-day Lebanese, something to be Al-Kab is be thrown away. Kabba is throw away. And I just want to mention something. So King Hiram calls King Solomon brother. Is he his brother? Well, if we go back to the Bible again, we know that Solomon was the son of Bathsheba. Bathsheba herself was the wife of Uriah the Hittite, and we know that the Hittite were Canaanites. So King Solomon was half Canaanite. And even if we go to his father's side, we know that he had also 3 Canaanite women in his genealogy. So we know Tamar. We talked about her when we discussed the last couple of years ago when we discussed the drag queen of Astarte. You can go back to my videos and review that. And we know also from the Bible the story of Rahab, who was a prostitute and who allowed the Jewish people to enter the city of Jericho, and her life and the life of her family was spared. And also we have the story of Ruth, who was a Moabite. And as I said, the Moabite were also Canaanite because they lived in the land of Canaan. So Ruth, the daughter-in-law of Naomi, was also a Canaanite. And also those 4 women, Tamar, Rahab, Ruth, and Bathsheba, are also in the genealogy, the female genealogy of our Lord Jesus Christ. So if Jesus was a Canaanite, he was a Canaanite through those 4 women. So we know that the Blessed Virgin, Mary, was from the tribe of Judah and daughter of David. And we know that these and Solomon and those ladies are in the genealogy of David and also of Solomon. So this is intriguing and very interesting. During the war in Lebanon, here I'm going to be a bit personal. People used to say that Syria was the sister of Lebanon, شقيقة لبنان, الشقيقة سوريا. But in fact, if you go back to the Bible, sister of Lebanon is not Syria, it's Israel. Because, you know, we all speak Canaanite language, we live on the land of Canaan, and there was intermarriage and intermixing between the Jews and Canaanite. So we are somehow brothers and sisters. I know that this will upset some people, but this is the reality if we go back to history and we go back to the Bible. I'm going to add one more thing. One of our friends on the internet, he mentions on his webpage that he accuses the Jews and accuses the Bible of mistreating the Phoenicians. I don't share his views. I think the Bible was an oben, une aubaine, as one of my bosses used to say. Aubaine means it's a bonus, it's a treasure trove, it's a windfall for us because it talks about the Phoenicians. Because without the biblical Hebrew, we cannot understand the Phoenician. We could not have understood the Phoenician language. And although the Bible sometimes criticizes the Canaanites and the Phoenicians, but nonetheless, it mentions them, and it talks a lot about them. And I'm very thankful to the Bible. I'm very thankful to the Jews. I hate no Jew, no Muslim. I love everyone, and I want everyone to be living in peace and harmony together. And together we can succeed, and we can make peace and not war. This inscription and the question of borders of the Phoenician motherland. So more reflection about borders. Borders are arbitrary but important markers for state sovereignty. Even in southern USA, state without a border is not a state. These borders could be easily crossed in times of peace, like it was for 3 decades when I was a child and adolescent between 1976 and the year 2000, at the time of الجدار الطيب, Hagader Hatova, between, again, South Lebanon and Israel, northern Israel. Peace is important for people to live and thrive across borders. Borders could become meeting points between brothers and enemies. Borders could become a hub of cultural exchange and economic opportunities, especially during peace. Borders are not a physical obstacle. They could be conduits of interactions between peoples and political systems. The borders could be a lifeline, which was the case for my ancestors in southern Lebanon to flee the massacres in 1920 and again to survive the Lebanese civil war between 1975 and the year 2000. The Ma'sub inscription and the perennity of the Phoenician identity. In the Lebanese official history books used for teaching and in the Museum of Beirut, the main museum in Lebanon, it would be stated that this inscription comes from Lebanon in the Hellenistic era, as if the Phoenicians had disappeared and were replaced by the Greeks. This doesn't seem right, as attested in this inscription. The inhabitants of the city of Hammon, El-Amad, were still Phoenicians, speaking and writing in Phoenician, in addition to worshipping Phoenician gods, while recognizing the Ptolemaic rule over the motherland. Even today, the same person reading and explaining this inscription to you, your humble host, considers himself a Phoenician more than 2,400 years later. In fact, he is genetically Phoenician, sharing 94% of Phoenician genes and the same Y chromosome as one of his male Canaanite ancestors whose remains were buried in the city of Sidon 3,400 years ago, and where he himself was born 50-something years ago. The inscription and the perennity of the Phoenician identity. The remaining 6% of his genes are Northern European genes, likely Crusader genes. So the Phoenicians are still here, despite the many years and civilizations that have passed. One of the main reasons your host left Lebanon at the end of the last century was because he refused to accept the so-called Arabic identity that was imposed on the Christians in Lebanon in the Ta'if Agreement in 1989 by the deep state, formerly the Protestant intelligentsia of the USA, which, by the way, was responsible for the creation of the two fundamentalist Islamic movements in the last century, the Mujahideen in Afghanistan, which became Al-Qaeda, and also the ISIS, the Islamic State in Iraq and Syria, and also were responsible for helping the Khomeini to take over power in Iran. So they created those Sunni and Shia fundamentalist movements to supposedly counteract the Soviet atheist empire, and they played with fire, and they are still reaping the result of this foolishness of theirs. At that time, the deep state in the US was busy fighting Saddam Hussein in Iraq. So your host will never accept Pan-Arabism or political Islam in Lebanon. And that's why he left Lebanon. And that's why he established this YouTube channel, promote the Canaanite Phoenician language and civilization and the Canaanite Phoenician identity of Lebanon. This channel has been online since 2009. Reflection on identity. So what is an identity or ethnicity or a race? In New Zealand, your host is categorized as Middle Eastern. In a way, he is from the Middle East, but this is not his identity. In Lebanon and France, your host is considered an Arab and to belong to the extreme right, extrême droite, اليمين المتطرف, but he is not an Arab and not an extreme of anything. As an unmarried single man, some in our Western world would like to lump him up as an alphabet people community member. But sexuality or the lack thereof is not an identity. This is a fake, false identity. Sexuality is the means by which one propagates one's identity and ethnicity, and it's not an identity by itself. Some again in our Western world would like to stick on him an identity of an anti-vaxxer for having refused to be inoculated with a thing based on religious grounds. But as Monsieur Raoul said, je ne suis pas un anti-vaxxeur, je suis anti-vaccin inutile et inefficace. Pour votre hôte non éthiquement produit. Others would say he's a Zionist for using the Hebrew alphabet on his channel and for somehow speaking Phoenician in a Hebrew accent. Your host is no more Zionist than all the Christians who have been going on pilgrimage to the Holy Land for millennia, or the early Muslims who had Jerusalem, that is Mount Zion, as their first qibla of prayers, or even the Prophet of Islam who had his Al-Isra wal-Mi'raj to and from Jerusalem to the highest heavens. Reflection on identity. More reflection. Others would say he's a conspiracy theorist for having finally understood the fakeness of the so-called democracy in Western countries, and, to be honest, elsewhere. In addition to realizing that the actual power is in the hands of a few evil oligarchs who control everything in the Western world and also the whole world, including the statistical games of elections after a good general media brainwashing of the people, and the uniparty system with alternating left and right parties, the banks, and economies across the globe. In the Western world, like in New Zealand, people are somehow classified according to their skin color or skin shade. Classifying people based on the amount of melanin pigment in their skin is simply racism. Human beings belong to one race, Homo sapiens sapiens. And if we go to the Bible, they are all Bnei Adam, sons of Adam, which is also echoed in some Phoenician inscriptions. Identity is more than that. It is your nature, that is your genes, in addition to your nurture, and that is your upbringing with your nuclear family and greater family, in your home, village, in your neighborhood, at school, and in your native country. It is what you were taught about the stories and myths of your ancestors, your culture, and the heroes of your nation. It is somehow nationalism. It's not only nationalism. Your host's other identities include being a New Zealander, which is a new identity for him, a medical doctor, and a gynecologist. So identity is a very complex issue, or issue, if we want to say it the English way. More reflection on identity. One's religion cements all this. And now I can see why there is a war on the family, nationhood, and religion. The rulers of this world, the globalist elites of the Novus Ordo Secularum, want to stamp all identities and make all peoples simple slaves and consumers of their products and obeyers of their supreme orders. One of the most important personal issues that shaped your host's identity was his refusal to tolerate or accept the destruction of his traditional family home and the other heritage buildings and natural sites in his home village and Lebanon. So your host feels so close to the people who inscribed this inscription. He feels those people are his people and are nearer to him than the Arabs, Jews, Palestinians, Iranians, Greeks, etc. Your host does not worship Astarte anymore because 220 years after this inscription, Christ came to this world, and some of the Phoenicians of Tyre, the region from which this inscription comes, and from where he also comes, were one of Christ's first followers after his Jewish disciples, as we read in Acts 21 from 2 to 6. Reflection on identity. So we read in Acts 21, in Patara we found a ship that was going to Phoenicia. So we went aboard and sailed away. We could see the island of Cyprus as we passed it on our left and sailed to Syria. We landed at the city of Tyre, where the ship was to unload its cargo. From Tyre, we searched for the disciples. After we found them, we stayed there for 7 days. The Spirit had the disciples tell Paul not to go to Jerusalem. When our time was up, we started on our way. All of them, with their wives and children, accompanied us out of the city. We knelt on the beach, prayed, and said goodbye to each other. Then we went aboard the ship, and the disciples went back home. That is why your host will not compromise on the centrality of the historical coming of our Lord Jesus Christ to save humanity, and on the veracity of the biblical scriptures. He believes in the kingship of our Lord Jesus Christ and in Christendom. Therefore, he will not be politically correct to flatter Jews or atheists, and will continue to use the BC AD dating system on his channel. Reflection on identity. And in the Middle Ages, after the coastal cities were abandoned, Phoenician history continued with the Christian Maronite community history in Mount Lebanon, a community to which he belongs. So being a Maronite is also his identity. Being an Eastern Catholic who recognizes the Pope of Rome as the Vicar of Christ on earth is also an integral part of his identity. During the Middle Ages, 1,100 years ago, his minor European ancestors, the Crusaders, came to this land, and with his main ancestors, the Maronites, in Mount Lebanon, fought to liberate the Holy Land from the tyrannical Muslims who wanted to oppress the Christians and destroy the holy places. Your host is not vexed to hold some genes of those heroes who left their countries to come and die in foreign lands thousands of miles away. Upholding one's identity does not mean in any way that one despises other identities, other peoples, other languages, or other religions. It only means please respect who I am so that I can in return respect who you are. After all, we are all brothers and sisters in humanity, and we could all live in peace. Peace is an important human value and human goal. As our Lord Jesus Christ said, blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. As we read in Matthew 5:9. Every human being, as we learn in the Bible, was created in the image of God and has immense value and worth in the eyes of the Creator, Trinitarian God. Every one of us is special and unique in the eyes of God. Solidarity with the people of South Lebanon in these difficult times of war, death, and destruction. I have chosen this inscription to express my solidarity with the good people of South Lebanon, my people, whether Christians, Shia, Sunni, or Druze. I do not stand with Hezbollah or Hamas because those fanatic organizations represent political Islam with its Shia and Sunni versions. Both organizations are not good for the Lebanese or the Palestinians. Both care only about what their masters in Iran and beyond Iran order them to do. They are ready to sacrifice both the Lebanese and Palestinian populations to implement their fundamentalistic ideology, which strangely goes against what's clearly stated in the Quran, the religious, unabrogated Islam concerning the right of the Jews to live in the Holy Land, as we read in Surah Al-Ma'idah 19 and 20. I'm going to read it in Arabic and translate it to you. وَإِذْ قَالَ مُوسَى لِقَوْمِهِ. And when Moses said to his people, يَا قَوْمْ اذْكُرُوا نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ عَلَيْكُمْ. My people, remember the gift that God has given you. إِذْ جَعَلَ فِيكُمْ أَنْبِيَاءَ وَجَعَلَكُمْ مُلُوكًا. He has made of you prophets and kings, and he وَآتَاكُم مَا لَمْ يُؤْتِ أَحَدًا مِنَ الْعَالَمِينَ, and he has given you what he has never given anyone before you. يا قوم ادخلوا الأرض المقدسة التي كتب الله لكم. My people, enter the Holy Land that God has written to you, that has given to you. ولا ترتدوا على أدباركم فتنقلبوا خاسرين. And do not turn on your back so that you become losers. So, according to the tafsir of this ayah talks about the Holy Land, and the Holy Land here is the Terra Sancta, or the land of Israel. And this surah was sent to the Prophet 80 to 88 days before he died. So this surah is unabrogated. And if it is unabrogated, it is present in the holy tables near the throne of God, as Muslims believe. And so when Hamas and Hezbollah come and say the Jews have no right in the land of Israel, they actually contradicting the holy book. And if or when Muslims accept to implement this ayah, the war or the conflict in Palestine will immediately end. Because once you recognize that the Jews have a right to exist and live in that land, then you would be able to compromise and live with them in peace. Another surah from the Quran is Surah Al-Imran. So some would say, why would God give this land to the people of Israel? Well, let's read the other surah, Surah Al-Imran, and this is Surah Ayat 26. قُلْ اللَّهُمَّ مَالِكُ الْمُلْكِ. Say, God, you are the owner of kingship. تُؤْتِي الْمُلْكَ مَنْ تَشَاءُ. You give kingship to whomever you want. وَتَنْزَعُ الْمُلْكَ مِمَّنْ تَشَاءُ. And you take kingship from whoever you want. تُعِزُّ مَنْ تَشَاءُ. You exalt whoever you want. وَتُذِلُّ مَنْ تَشَاءُ. And you humiliate whoever you want to humiliate. بِيَدِكَ الْخَيْرُ. You have the goodness in your hands, and وَأَنَّكَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ. And then you are capable of doing everything that you want to do. So no one can come to God and say to God, why have you given the land to the people of Israel? Can do whatever God likes. And this ayah was read by Abu Abdullah Muhammad the 12th, BᵐAbdil, who reigned from 1460 to 1533, when he handed the keys of the city of Granada to the Catholic monarchs. He repeated the same ayah 26, and the Catholic kings of Spain crossed themselves and said, blessed be God, because he willed that we take over the city. So that was on January the 2nd, 1492. And some people would say, you're Christian and you're making yourself a mufti. One day on your YouTube channel, you declare that you may put your candidacy for the papal office, and now you are saying that you understand the Quran more than the Muslims, and you playing the game of being a mufti or a Muslim. No, I'm not doing that. I'm just following the Quran. And if we read the third ayah that I have chosen today from Surah Yunus, and it's clear what I'm doing is just I'm one of those who read the book. I'm one of those people of the book. And let's read the ayah in Arabic. فَإِن كُنْتَ فِي شَكٍّ مِّمَّا أَنزَلْنَا إِلَيْكَ. If you are in doubt, this is directed to the Prophet Muhammad and also to all the Muslims all over the world. فَإِن كُنْتَ فِي شَكٍّ مِّمَّا أَنزَلْنَا إِلَيْكَ. If you are in doubt of what we have sent down to you, فَاسْأَلِ الَّذِينَ يَقْرَؤُونَ الْكِتَابَ مِنْ قَبْلِكَ. And ask those who read the book before you. Who's those who read the book? The people of the book. And I'm one of those people of the book. لقد جاءك الحق من ربك. You have received the truth from your God. فلا تكونن من الممترين. And don't be of those who doubt, and yet deep inside they know that what you have received is actually from God. And I like this word al-mumtarin because it actually represents the hypocrisy of Hamas and Hezbollah. Why? Because they know deep inside that this land belongs to the Jews, but yet they are doubting it. And here I don't want to be misunderstood. I'm not saying that the land is for the Jews and they have to kick everyone out and take this land. What I'm saying here is that I'm just proposing a peace proposal to accept the Quran and use the Quran to make peace and compromise, and for this horrible war to end, and for the upcoming war between Lebanon and Israel, between Hezbollah and Israel, not to happen. So Hezbollah, why are you sending all your people, your young men, to die in this war on the land of, you say, on the roads of Jerusalem? If you read your Quran, so you're acting against your God. You're acting against the Quran, against the ayah in the Quran that says that this land belongs to the Jews. And Hamas, you're one of those mumtarin mentioned in Surah Yunus. So stop this stupid war. Accept peace and end the destruction and the killing of your people and of everyone in the Middle East. We don't want war. We want to live in peace, compromise, love each other, and end this ongoing war of destruction and genocide. Solidarity with the people of South Lebanon in these difficult times of war, death, and destruction. So, I stand with my people against the arrogant, futile wars of the fundamentalists, whoever they may be in the Middle East. I stand for peace, coexistence, and conviviality among all peoples. I condemn genocidal wars. I want all people and religions to live in peace, and for everyone to have a space under the sun to thrive and attain one's ordained potential. Those who cannot tolerate peace could simply go away. God's land is vast. They must take their hatred with them, so that my people can live in peace, harmony, and prosperity. On this occasion, I have written a short political speech in Phoenicia to show that Phoenician could become a live language again. ḥᵓLM أنيخي El-Amad إتآية حزب الله إتآية حماس أنيخي عماد إتآية ḥMŠM عم درام لبنان ḥMШيحيم وḥشيعتات وحسنيم وحدروزيم حبري حزب الله بل يفعلوا برعات آية لبنانيم همت يجمعوا بدبار أدونينوم بإيران إشيم رعيم همت بعلي إجدوديم ومحبي همات همي بلوتيم حبري حزب الله ḥRSHRT لآيتها يهوديم لآيتها مسيحيم لكل آيتها مسلميم إشقال يعذرونهم أنيخي إحلام لكوني يوم اليود يتسو آية حزب الله وإشيو هرعيم من لبنان في آية لبنانيم طبيم يشبو بأرضهم بشلم بشبع وبمنعم بنحت لبنان يوم مدى يوم براح مدى راح أدام هوا لبنان وعمو بلبنان بكل أرضات العالم. A political opinion. I do not stand with Hezbollah and Hamas. I stand with my people, the people of South Lebanon, whether Christians, Shia, Sunni, or Druze. Hezbollah leaders do not act according to the will of the Lebanese. They execute the orders they take from their masters in Iran. Hezbollah members are evil people and bandits. They love death and destruction. Hezbollah leaders have evil thoughts toward Jewish and Christian peoples, in addition to all Muslims who do not support their ideology. I dream of a day shortly when the evil men of Hezbollah will leave Lebanon so that the good people of Lebanon can live in peace, plenty of food, prosperity, and tranquility of heart, day after day and months after months, like the good days of the past. Long live Lebanon and its people in the homeland and abroad. كلمة سياسية. أنا لا أقف مع حزب الله وحماس. أنا أقف مع شعبي، شعب جنوب لبنان، سواء كانوا مسيحيين، شيعة أو سنة أو دروز. قادة حزب الله لا يتصرفون وفق إرادة اللبنانيين. إنهم ينفذون الأوامر التي يتلقونها من أسيادهم في إيران. أعضاء حزب الله هم أناس أشرار وقطاع طرق. إنهم يحبون الموت والدمار. ولقادة حزب الله أفكار شريرة تجاه الشعبين اليهودي والمسيحي، بالإضافة إلى جميع المسلمين الذين لا يؤيدون أيديولوجيتهم. أحلم بيوم قريب يخرج فيه رجال حزب الله الأشرار من لبنان، حتى يتمكن أهل لبنان الطيبين من العيش في سلام ووفرة من الطعام والرخاء وطمأنينة القلب، يوما بعد يوم وشهرا بعد شهر، مثل أيام لبنان الطيبة الماضية. عاش لبنان وشعبه في الوطن والمحشر. This is a French translation, so this be the third translation into a third language. Allocution politique. Je ne suis pas du côté du Hezbollah et du Hamas. Je suis aux côtés de mon peuple, le peuple du Sud Liban, qu'il soit chrétien, chiite, sunnite ou druze. Les dirigeants du Hezbollah n'agissent pas selon la volonté des Libanais. Ils exécutent les ordres qu'ils reçoivent de leur maître en Iran. Les membres du Hezbollah sont des gens méchants et des bandits. Ils aiment la mort et la destruction. Les dirigeants du Hezbollah ont de mauvaises pensées envers les peuples juifs et chrétiens, ainsi qu'à l'égard de tous les musulmans qui ne soutiennent pas leur idéologie. Je rêve d'un jour prochain où les méchants du Hezbollah quitteront le Liban, afin que le bon peuple du Liban puisse vivre dans la paix, la nourriture en abondance, la prospérité et la tranquillité du cœur, jour après jour et mois après mois, comme les bons jours du passé. Vive le Liban et son peuple, dans le pays et à l'étranger. In Italian, in lingua italiana. Indirizzo politico. Non sto con Hezbollah e Hamas. Sto dalla parte del mio popolo, il popolo del Libano meridionale, siano essi cristiani, sciiti, sunniti o drusi. I leader di Hezbollah non agiscono secondo la volontà dei libanesi, seguono gli ordini che ricevono dai loro padroni in Iran. I membri di Hezbollah sono persone malvagie e banditi, amano la morte e la distruzione. I leader di Hezbollah hanno pensieri malvagi nei confronti dei popoli ebrei e cristiani, oltre che di tutti i musulmani che non sostengono la loro ideologia. Sogno il prossimo giorno in cui gli uomini malvagi di Hezbollah lasceranno il Libano in modo che la brava gente del Libano possa vivere in pace, cibo in abbondanza, prosperità e tranquillità di cuore, giorno dopo giorno e mese dopo mese, come i buoni giorni del passato. Lunga vita al Libano e alla sua gente in patria e all'estero. Discurso político. This is a translation in Spanish. No estoy del lado de Hezbollah y Hamas. Estoy junto a mi pueblo, el pueblo del sur del Líbano, ya sean cristianos, chiitas, sunníes o drusos. Los líderes de Hezbollah no actúan según la voluntad de los libaneses. Ejecutan las órdenes que reciben de sus amos en Irán. Los miembros de Hezbollah son gente malvada y bandidos. Aman la muerte y la destrucción. Los líderes de Hezbollah tienen malos pensamientos hacia los pueblos judíos y cristianos, además de hacia todos los musulmanes que no apoyan su ideología. Sueño con un día en el que los hombres malvados de Hezbollah abandonen el Líbano para que la buena gente del Líbano pueda vivir en paz, con abundante comida, prosperidad y tranquilidad de corazón, día tras día y mes tras mes, como los buenos días del pasado. Larga vida al Líbano y a su pueblo, en el país y en el extranjero. Final translation would be in Hebrew, modern day Hebrew, which is, as you will see, a bit different from Phoenician and biblical Hebrew because it has incorporated a lot of Aramaic in it. מילה פוליטית. אני לא עומד לצד חיזבאללה וחמאס. אני עומד לצד עמי ותושבי דרום לבנון, בין אם נוצרים, שיעים, סונים או דרוזים. מנהיגי חיזבאללה אינם פועלים לפי רצון הלבנונים. הם מבצעים את הפקודות שהם מקבלים מאדוניהם באיראן. אנשי חיזבאללה הם אנשים מרושעים ושודדים. הם אוהבים מוות והרס. למנהגי חיזבאללה יש מחשבות מרושעות כלפי עמים יהודים ונוצרים, בנוסף לכל המוסלמים שאינם תומכים באידיאולוגיה שלהם. אני חולם על יום בקרוב, שבו אנשי חיזבאללה הרשעים יעזבו את לבנון, כדי שהאנשים הטובים של לבנון יוכלו לחיות בשלום, בשפע של אוכל, בשגשוג ושלוות לב, יום אחרי יום, וחודש אחרי חודש, כמו הטובים ימים של פעם. תחי לבנון ואנשיה, בארץ לבנון ומיצה לה. ḥᵓLM. This is my political opinion written by me in Phoenician letters, and I've added here at the end the year of writing this in the 81st year لعم Lebanon, which would be the 81 year of Lebanon's independence. ḥᵓLM. Here I created a new Phoenician word. Instead of using the word politics, I used the first part of the word politics, which comes from Greek, is for polis, which means city. So I changed it to in Phoenician, and I kept the second part of the word as it is in Greek. So politics in Phoenician would be ḥᵓTikat. And here I have ḥᵓLM, which means a voice or a word of politics. So let me read this final time for you today. ḥᵓLM. أنيخي الْأَمَد إتأيد حزب الله وإتة آية حماس أنيخي عمود إتة آية عم إتلي عم دروم لبنان המשיחים והשיעתות והסונים והדרוזים. חברי חיזבאללה בל יפעלו ברעות آية לבנונים. המת ישמעו בדובר אדונינום באיראן. אישים רעים המת. בעלי אגדודים ומחבי המות והמפלוטים. חברי חיזבאללה פרשו רע لآية היהודים המשיחים وكل هامشلميم إشأل يعذرونم. أنيخي إحلام لكوني يوم رياض يتسو آية حزب الله ويتشايو هرعيم من لبنان كي آية لبنانيم طبيم وشبو بأرضسام بشلم بشبع بمنعم بنحت لبنان يوم مدى يوم ويراح مدى يراح كي قدام هوا لبنان وعمو بلبنان بكل أرضات العالم بشت شمانيم وأحد العام لبنان. And this would be a final reading of this famous Ma'sub Phoenician inscription as written by me in Phoenician letters with the added vowel marks. Ma'sub Qai 19 inscription. And these are the lines. 꿲RPT كبيرات متسع شمش وتصبولية إيش بنو وألام ملخي ملخ اشترتي وعبديو بعلي حمن لعشترتي بإشرات الحمن بشت 26 لبطولمايوس أدون ملخيم أدير فاعل نعم بن طولمايوس أرسينوس هالوني أحييم 3 ḥMŠM لعم تصور כמו איש בנו آية كل ḥRY המקדשים איש בארץ ليكونوا لهم ذكر وشم نعيم العلام. And to finish this long presentation, here I'm going to show you the new ring that I bought and that I inscribed with Phoenician letters. And as you can see here is ḥRM ḥML:K, ḥRM ḥML:K, the ḥRM the king ring, which means that Phoenician is still alive. It can be inscribed on rings and can be used for political opinions and speeches. Long live Phoenicia, long live Lebanon, and may the good Lord spare us a horrible war in Lebanon. And I hope and pray for peace and for end of all hostilities in Lebanon and the Holy Land. God be with us all. Thank you again for watching this long presentation, and may God bless you all.